everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I would do a book tag that sort of welcomes the beginning of fall. In Japan, fall weather started at the end of August and decided it was never going to go back. Today it is raining really hard. It's very, very gloomy because of a typhoon. And just now when I start this video, it's very, very strong and I actually do plan on going out. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, this tag was created by Ariel Bissett and I will be leaving in the description box her 2021 version of this video. In any case, let's see what my answers to the questions are. So first question, are there any books you started this year that you need to finish? Well, I think you guys are all very much well aware that I have been reading The Story of the Stone by Xuequin since February. This is volume 5. It's the very, very last volume. I haven't started it yet. I know there's a bookmark, but I haven't started it yet. But yeah, volume 5 is the last volume, and then I will have completed this book, and it will have been a very, very fun read for the year. But yes, this is the read that I need to finish this year, and it will get finished this year. I don't think I'll be reading it this September. It's already mid-September, and I've only read one book so far, so this is not going to be for September, I don't think, but it will be read before the end of the year. Then I have 2 Japanese language books that I started but just never continued with, which is a very, very common pattern with me. For me when I read Japanese novels, because for me the goal, I mean, yes, it is to read very good books, but it's also just to read in Japanese, and sometimes I just, even if I'm enjoying the book, I just sort of wander off, and I'm okay because at least I've read like 50 pages in Japanese. But I still do actually want to read these. So yeah, that's Chichitoran by Kawakami Mieko, so Breasts and Eggs by Mieko Kawakami, which this is the original novella. It's not the version that's out in English that's sort of popular on YouTube these days. That's because that's actually, while it's called Breasts and Eggs, it's actually a translation of her book Natsu Monogatari, which means summer story. So this is the original Breasts and Eggs novella, and I am pretty much halfway through this. I just need to read it. The other book that was also a book that came out into English translation this past year, which is why I wanted to have it read this year, that'sむらさきのスカートの女 by Imamura Natsuko, so The Woman in the Purple Skirt by Natsuko Imamura. This is a book that's very, very easy to read, and I just need to push through and just continue because I know I'm going to enjoy this. And then just for, you know, fun, I do need to finish the very last volume, volume 6 of the Orange manga series. I mean, this is so stupid that I haven't read it already. It should be done by now. I mean, it's manga. This takes me like 30 minutes to read. I don't know why I haven't done it yet, but so this, by the end of the year, I will have finished this manga series. It's just this is not a year for manga. This is not the year that I'm reading manga. It's a year for really good novels, which I'm very happy about. But I do have 400 unread volumes of manga, so I do need to have that read. But yeah, next question. Is there a new release you're still waiting for? No. The 2 new releases this year that I was anticipating, one being The Hidden History of Burma, A Crisis of Race and Capitalism by Thant Myint-U, and Eat the Buddha, Life and Death in a Tibetan Town by Barbara Demick. These were the 2 books that I was anticipating for this year, and now I've already read them. So very excited, but yeah, I've already read them, so I'm accomplished for this year. Let's see. Next question. Do you have an autumnal book to transition into the end of the year? I'm actually not really a seasonal reader. I'm actually almost quite the opposite. I like reading summer books in the fall. I like to read winter books in the summer. I don't know. I think it almost enhances the effect of the season in the book in a sort of less obvious way, but just because if it's a, you know, the middle of the summer and you're reading a book about winter, you can really feel the crisp chill of the air, and the way that affects your present I don't know, presents can be really, really fun. So I'm not too much of a seasonal reader, but I do have 2 books that fit the bill that if I decided to read this year, would be probably fantastic. One of them is Dracula by Bram Stoker. And then the second book is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I read her book, My Cousin Rachel, last year. Absolutely loved it. I do really want to read this. And maybe I'll end up reading this year. I don't know. Like, I'm really tempted, but I have a feeling it's not going to happen. But these, if I were to make a choice and be really, really explicit about, you know, reading autumnal readings, these would definitely be the two books I pick up. So we'll see. Maybe it'll happen, maybe, but probably won't. But we'll see. On that note, what are 3 books you want to read before the end of the year? I do. One of these books would be very autumnal and seasonal, and that is The Castle of Otranto by Horace Walpole. This is very, very gothic read, so it's gonna be very dark and very moody and complex, and this would definitely be a seasonal read. So even if I don't read Dracula and Rebecca, maybe I'll end up reading this, and that will be my nice autumnal transition. So yeah, this one I do want to get to this year. Another book that's really tempting me this year, especially due to the current read, my current French read, which I won't reveal, but because of sort of the nature of that book, I'm really, really wanting to read The Gossamer Years, The Diary of a Noblewoman in Heian, Japan, translated by Edward Seidensticker. No author given, because I believe we don't know who the author of this is. But yeah, this one's really, really tempting me. And for me, I don't know, I feel like sometimes reading about a much older time period can be very autumn, fall appropriate. I don't know, that's my feeling. I guess probably a lot of times because there was, you know, maybe some suffering or some difficult times, and we can associate that with winter, even if that's not a proper association. But I don't know, something about this is calling out to me, and I would like to read this year. I mean, it's on my TBR shelf, and I see it every day, and I'm just like, ooh, I want to pick you up. So I think this will happen. And then I'm torn. There are two travelogues that are really, really tempting me. The first one came from a recent TBR video, and that is A Winter in Arabia by Freya Stark, which recounts her travels in Yemen before it became Yemen, and, you know, sort of being the first woman to sort of travel in the area, which was definitely unheard of at the time, especially in this kind of environment. So there's this, or The Old Ways by Robert Macfarlane, where he walks the British Isles. And I think this is going to be so lovely. I know it's going to be so lovely. So I'm really torn between these two. I think I really want to read a travelogue before the end of the year. And I can go either direction, and I think I'll have a wonderful time. So these two are on my whatever the word is that's supposed to complete the sentence. That's the word we're gonna go with. So just come up in your mind, and that's the word we are choosing. So there's that. Next question is there a book you think that could still shock you and become your favorite book? I don't know, because like the thing is, like, when I buy books, I kind of assume they're all going to be my favorite books. I can be very selective, especially the books where I wait a long time before purchasing them, because that means I've given myself the time to really think about them, really consider them, like, is it worth buying it? And so when I do buy them, it's like, you know what, yes, this is going to be fantastic. So I don't know about that, but so shock is not really exactly words. Are there books that I think that will become favorites? I mean, yeah. So I mean, there's one book, there's one history book that I would really like to read by the end of the year. It's really calling out to me. I had already started it. I had read 200 pages of it back in the day. I will have to restart it, but I was loving it. But because it's so big, it's really hard to read. But that's At Dawn We Slept, The Untold Story of Pearl Harbor by Gordon W. Prange. As you can see, it's really, really big. I really want to read this, especially because I want to do a video about Japan during the war. And I have a bunch of recommendations for, you know, the bombings, Japan overseas, the presence of Japan in their own country, etc., etc. I have all that, but I don't have any books about the actual start of the war with Pearl Harbor, so I do want to read a few of those before I make the video, and so I really want to get to this. But I'm already reading a really big history book. Spoilers for what I'm reading right now, currently reading, but I'm actually reading the biography of Mao, The Unknown Story of Mao by Chang, who's the author of Wild Swans. So you can see they're both about the same page, amount of pages, same size, same heaviness. And so I'm reading this right now. It's so fantastic. It's so good. I mean, you can't go wrong with either of these. But yeah, it's like, well, I'm reading this, so am I really gonna get to this year? I don't know, but like I just really want to get to these. And yeah, if I read this, I know it's going to become a favorite, because the first 200 pages I've already read were just so fascinating and so amazing. It's so well written, and it just really pulls you in, and it's a fascinating read. So I know if I were to end up reading this before the end of the year, it would become a favorite. This one, I'm loving it so far, but I have read criticisms of the book, and I think maybe that will come a little bit further towards the end. So I'll have to see how I feel about those criticisms, or how I feel about the parts that led to those criticisms. But for now, this is really fascinating, and I'm really enjoying it, and I really love it. Can you call a history book a favorite? I don't know. I mean, it's also good. Maybe, you know, favorites is limited to fiction. I don't know, but yeah, anyways, that's kind of where my thought process is going right now. Last question, have you already started making reading plans for next year? I'm not really someone who makes reading plans. As you can see here, I'm not really good about making TBRs. I tend to, I like the idea of making TBRs, but then I also like not following TBRs. I like to sort of see what I want to read based on my thought process at the time. So with all the books I've already showed right now, these are the books that are on my mind, and these are the books I like to sort of sort in, depending on where my thought process is going at the time. But so I mean, like the Dracula Rebecca Castle of Otranto definitely has a theme going to it. The Gossamer Years has a theme going with my current read. Mao, you know, the Chinese book, and then going back to the Story of the Stone, definitely a theme there. But then, you know, I have A Winter in Arabia and The Old Ways, the two travelogues, and there's not really a connection with those. It's just a question of whether I want to read them. So I don't know, I have to see how the puzzles, all the pieces fit together. But I do have my eye on Japanese new releases and translated into English. I already know of 3 coming out in 2022. One of them is Longing and Other Stories by Junichiro Tanizaki, who is one of the great writers of Japan. So that's something that could definitely look forward to. There's Yoko Tawada, who has a new translation coming out in English called Scattered All Over the Earth, which kind of seems to have a bit of a connection to her other book, The Emissary, which for me, that book was sort of mediocre. I really liked the idea behind it, but the execution was a little off. So her book isn't as exciting, but it's definitely the type of book I kind of see myself reading anyway. But so I still have my eye out on that one. And then the other book that I know of is called Diary of a Void by Emi Yagi, and that's the one I'm actually really interested in, because it's about a woman who works in a Japanese company, and she has to do you know, her job, but she also have to fill the sort of traditional expected ideas of a female worker in a Japanese company, which is they have to make the tea, they have to greet the guests, they have to like basically be a mother to their coworkers, specifically their male coworkers, even though they're supposed to be on equal ground. And so one day she just decides, you know what, I'm not going to do this, and she pretends to be pregnant as a means to excuse herself from these, you know, menial duties, but obviously she isn't pregnant, so the book kind of has to goes off from there. And that one definitely intrigues me because I love books about the Japanese workplace and sort of the everyday, you know, individual versus society sort of topics. So yeah, that's sort of where I'm at in terms of thinking of ahead of towards 2022. But I mean, my goals are kind of always the same. Read in Japanese, which I haven't been doing this year, but read in Japanese, read my manga, which I haven't been doing, and then just continue to read on my TBR, which I am actually very good about. TBR, for me, meaning the actual books that I own physically, not wish list books, but books I actually read physically. I actually own physically. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!